Picture this. Obi-Wan Kenobi stands before the Galactic Senate, removes his lightsaber, and publicly resigns from the Jedi Order. Not because of personal crisis or philosophical disagreement, but because he's discovered that every clone trooper in the Republic military has been turned into an unwitting slave through hidden brain control devices. This single act destroys a conspiracy 20 years in the making and fractures the galaxy in ways that make the original Civil War look like a minor disagreement. What happens next isn't just different, it's the complete opposite of everything we know about Star Wars. The clone army fractures as millions of soldiers discover their slaves breaking free from mind control. The Jedi Order survives because they have advance warning of their planned extermination. Democracy doesn't die because the conspiracy is exposed before it can succeed, and the Skywalker twins grow up as trained leaders instead of hidden refugees fighting impossible odds. Let's establish exactly what Obi-Wan discovers during a routine inspection of clone trooper medical records on Kamino. The Kaminoans have requested Jedi oversight for unexplained neurological issues affecting recent clone batches. What Obi-Wan finds isn't a medical problem. It's evidence of the most elaborate deception in galactic history. While reviewing clone brain scans, Obi-Wan notices identical organic masses embedded in every clone's brain tissue. When he questions the Kaminoans, their evasive responses trigger his suspicions. The masses appear in exactly the same location despite genetic variations, suggesting artificial implantation rather than natural development. Force-enhanced computer slicing reveals classified Kaminoan archives containing horrifying truth. The organic masses are biomechanical control devices designed to override clone free will on command. Technical specifications show these inhibitor chips can force clones to carry out any programmed action, including Order 66, a preloaded command that will force every clone trooper to execute their Jedi commanders. But the conspiracy extends beyond clone control. Hidden in the archive's financial databases, accessible only through Kaminoan security protocols that Obi-Wan bypasses using the Force, are credit transfer records revealing the true scope of Sith manipulation. The Jedi know the clone army was commissioned by someone called Darth Tyrannus working with Darth Sidious, but these financial records prove how completely both Sith Lords have been controlling the galactic economy, manipulating not just military contracts, but entire star system budgets to fund their elaborate deception. The deepest archive levels reveal Kaminoan experiments testing enhanced conditioning methods on clone subjects, creating prototypes for galaxy-wide population control. Some clones have been subjected to memory implantation and behavioral modification that makes them incapable of independent thought. This isn't just about controlling an army, it's about creating a template for enslaving entire civilizations once the Sith seize power. When Obi-Wan requests an emergency Senate session, Chancellor Palpatine assumes this is routine briefing. He has no idea his 20-year plan is about to collapse. But Obi-Wan faces an impossible moral choice. The Jedi Order has unknowingly become complicit in the largest slavery operation in galactic history. Every clone trooper serving under Jedi command is a victim of mind control, programmed to murder the very people trying to protect them. Obi-Wan realizes that continuing to serve as a Jedi general makes him an accessory to clone enslavement. The Order's participation in the war, no matter how well-intentioned, enables and legitimizes a system built on the systematic dehumanization of 3 million sentient beings. He cannot, in good conscience, continue commanding slaves while claiming to serve justice and freedom. His resignation isn't just a protest. It's a desperate attempt to save both the clones and the Jedi Order itself. By publicly exposing the truth and renouncing his position, Obi-Wan forces the galaxy to confront the moral horror hiding beneath the Clone Wars. He provides brain scan evidence, Kaminoan archive files, and technical documentation proving that every clone trooper has been enslaved through biomechanical mind control devices programmed to murder their Jedi commanders. Soon, every major news network broadcasts documentation showing 3 million clone soldiers have been turned into unwitting slaves. The medical evidence is so comprehensive that even Palpatine's supporters cannot dismiss it as propaganda. Obi-Wan's moral stand transforms what could have been a classified military briefing into a galactic reckoning with the true cost of the war. The consequence is catastrophic for Palpatine's timeline. His strategy depended on Order 66 remaining secret. Instead, Obi-Wan exposes clones as victims and Jedi as targets of planned genocide. Any attack on Jedi will now appear as the final step in pre-planned extermination using enslaved soldiers. More critically, clone medics across the galaxy begin emergency brain scans after learning about the control devices. Within days, medical facilities conduct emergency surgeries to remove slavery devices from any clone requesting liberation. The Grand Army fractures as millions discover they've been slaves their entire lives. Countless clones undergo chip removal and form the Liberation Army, retaining training and equipment but serving free will rather than Sith programming. Large numbers remain in service but demand recognition as sentient beings with rights, questioning orders, and refusing morally questionable operations. The remaining clones struggle with knowing their thoughts might not be their own. Military consequences ripple through every front as the clone army transforms from unified force into complex society, dealing with identity, freedom, and purpose. Battle plans, assuming automatic obedience, now face refusals, moral objections, and demands for explanation. Major offensives collapse when battalions declare they'll only fight with understanding of their sacrifice's necessity. Some clone units refuse to fight at all, choosing to establish civilian colonies on neutral worlds where they can explore what it means to live as free beings. Most importantly, Order 66 becomes impossible. Clones with chips can resist through conscious effort, those without are immune, and all operate under observation from liberated brothers, making coordinated action against Jedi impossible. The clone enslavement revelation creates an existential crisis within the Confederacy, but not for the reasons anyone expects. Count Dooku already knows about the Sith involvement. He's been Darth Tirana's all along, working with Darth Sidious to orchestrate both sides of the war. But Obi-Wan's evidence exposes something Dooku never knew about. The extent of Sidious's deception goes far beyond their original agreement. Dooku believed he was a willing partner in a plan to destroy the corrupt Republic and rebuild galactic civilization under Sith rule. But the inhibitor chip evidence reveals that Sidious never intended to share power. The chips aren't just programmed to kill Jedi. They contain additional protocols that would eliminate Dooku himself once Order 66 is complete. Sidious has been planning to betray his own apprentice from the very beginning. Even worse, the financial records show that Sidious has been manipulating Dooku's own strategic decisions throughout the war. Battles that Dooku thought he was losing by choice were actually being orchestrated by Sidious to weaken Dooku's power base within the separatist movement. The entire Confederacy was designed not just to destroy the Republic, but to eliminate Dooku as a potential rival once the Sith achieved victory. Dooku's subsequent assault on Palpatine is motivated not by discovery of Sith involvement, but by the realization that he's been marked for death by his own master. Before attacking, he broadcasts a message revealing not only Palpatine's identity as Darth Sidious, but also the full scope of Sith manipulation, including his own role as Darth Tirana's, and how even Sith apprentices are expendable pawns in Sidious's ultimate plan. This creates a completely different crisis within the Separatist alliance. Instead of learning their leader was unknowingly manipulated, they discover he was a willing participant in a conspiracy that planned to betray even its own allies. The philosophical foundation crumbles when they realize their independence movement was led by someone who intended to enslave them under a different form of tyranny. Instead of being caught unprepared by Order 66, the Jedi Council receives weeks of advance warning. Master Windu immediately orders evacuation of all younglings, dispersing them to safe houses in neutral systems. Senior Masters establish hidden enclaves on independent worlds, preparing for inevitable war. The evacuation preserves both lives and knowledge. Ancient texts, holocrons, and training materials are distributed among secure locations. When Palpatine attempts his purge, he attacks an essentially empty temple. Instead of eliminating 10,000 Jedi, his purge kills fewer than 300 volunteers who remain to fight delaying action. The surviving Jedi become the organizational core of coordinated resistance operating openly beyond Palpatine's control, serving as military advisors, intelligence operatives, and political leaders, actively preventing galactic tyranny. By the time Palpatine declares himself Emperor, he controls less than half the galaxy's inhabited systems. Core worlds and major trade routes remain under his authority, but everything beyond the Mid-Rim has declared independence or joined the Democratic Alliance, led by former Republic senators and surviving Jedi. This isn't the overwhelming galactic empire from the original timeline. It's a powerful but limited authoritarian state facing constant challenges, economic blockades, and internal rebellion. Palpatine possesses superior technology due to controlling financial centers and industrial worlds, but lacks raw materials and agricultural resources needed for sustainability. The Empire faces constant internal challenges. Clone troopers who discovered chips but couldn't remove them sabotage operations from within. Imperial officers expecting to serve a democratic republic find themselves enforcing brutal policies. Defection rates remain chronically high. Most significantly, the Empire cannot afford planet-destroying superweapons when every resource must maintain control over contested territory and fight multiple enemies. Instead of Death Stars, Imperial resources go toward conventional equipment, intelligence operations, and propaganda campaigns. Changes to Anakin's trajectory create the most significant alteration to galactic history. When Palpatine reveals himself as Darth Sidious years ahead of schedule, before Anakin has been sufficiently corrupted, he faces a conflicted but fundamentally good person who just learned his former mentor was correct about Republic corruption. Anakin doesn't fall to the dark side. He becomes one of the Democratic Alliance's most effective commanders, using unparalleled piloting skills and force abilities to coordinate resistance operations. Padme survives childbirth and becomes a central political figure, instrumental in designing governmental structures that resist authoritarian takeover. The galaxy has settled into an unprecedented three-way Cold War, unlike anything in recorded history. The Palpatine Empire controls most core worlds and major hyperspace routes. The Democratic Alliance governs extensive territory throughout the mid and outer rims. Countless independent systems refuse to join either major faction. This creates a completely different political dynamic than the Empire versus Rebellion conflict from the original timeline. Instead of a totalitarian state facing scattered resistance cells, we observe three major power blocks engaged in constant diplomatic competition, economic warfare, and limited military conflicts over disputed territories. No single faction has the strength to conquer the others, creating a delicate balance of power that forces all sides to compete for legitimacy rather than rely purely on military force. Trade wars replace Death Star attacks as the primary form of intergovernmental conflict. Each faction develops its own currency, forcing complex exchange negotiations for cross-border commerce. The Empire uses its control over core world manufacturing to create technological dependencies, while the Alliance leverages its agricultural dominance to control food supplies. Independent systems profit by serving as neutral trading hubs, but risk being absorbed by whichever major power can offer better protection. Intelligence operations become more important than fleet battles. Each faction maintains extensive spy networks within the other's territories, leading to constant diplomatic incidents when agents are discovered. The Empire focuses on identifying and eliminating force-sensitive individuals who might join the Alliance. The Alliance works to encourage defections from Imperial territory and support clone liberation movements. Independent systems must constantly guard against infiltration from all sides while maintaining their neutrality. Most significantly, this Cold War dynamic prevents any faction from building planet-destroying superweapons. Every available resource must be dedicated to maintaining territorial control, funding intelligence operations, and competing for the loyalty of uncommitted star systems. The galaxy becomes more militarized than ever before, but the threat of mutual destruction keeps actual warfare limited to border skirmishes and proxy conflicts. The psychological impact on galactic civilization is profound. Citizens grow up knowing that their system's allegiance could shift based on economic pressures, military threats, or political changes. This creates a population that's more politically engaged, but also more paranoid about external influence. Education becomes heavily politicized, as each faction promotes its own version of recent history and galactic values. The galactic fragmentation creates the largest refugee crisis in recorded history. As territories shift between Imperial, Alliance, and independent control, billions find themselves under governments they never chose. Core world populations begin mass migrations to Alliance territory rather than live under Imperial rule. These movements fundamentally alter regional character. The Alliance becomes incredibly diverse as refugees bring skills, cultures, and perspectives. The Empire faces the opposite challenge. As democratic-minded populations flee, Palpatine rules increasingly homogeneous populations that support authoritarianism, but lack creative innovation. Independent systems become havens for specific groups seeking autonomy, trading hubs profiting from interfaction commerce, or centers of learning attracting scholars who reject militaristic focus of major powers. The three-way split creates divergent technological development. The Empire focuses on perfecting surveillance and control systems. The Alliance integrates force-enhanced technologies, force-guided navigation, Jedi-enhanced communications, and defensive technologies, protecting entire populations rather than just military assets. Independent systems pursue radical experimentation neither major faction would risk. Some develop biotechnology enhancing natural abilities. Others create decentralized manufacturing, eliminating large industrial centers. And a few pioneer space travel alternatives that don't rely on hyperdrive technology controlled by major powers. These differences compound over time. By the 10th year, the three blocks use fundamentally incompatible technologies, creating natural barriers to conquest and control. The end of centralized government triggers unprecedented cultural renaissance. Different systems develop their own expressions without conforming to Republic standards or Imperial propaganda. Local languages experience revivals, traditional art forms flourish, and refugees bring cultural traditions together in new combinations. Alliance territories become innovation centers as Twi'lek musicians collaborate with human poets and Rhodian sculptors. Ancient Jedi meditation techniques merge with modern therapeutic practices. Educational systems honor both galactic knowledge and local wisdom. Imperial territory experiences opposite effects. Palpatine imposes strict cultural uniformity for social control. While this creates impressive coordinated displays, it stifles creativity and innovation from diverse perspectives. With thousands of Jedi openly practicing, Force sensitivity is no longer hidden. Children who would have remained unaware receive training and guidance. Adults finally understand their lifelong connection to universal energy. This widespread awakening creates unprecedented phenomena. Groups of Force sensitives working together influence weather patterns, heal environmental damage, and coordinate crop growth across agricultural worlds. Some independent systems develop Force-enhanced societies where nearly everyone has basic sensitivity training. The Empire responds with increasing paranoia. Imperial Inquisitors work overtime to eliminate Force sensitives. The government promotes scientific materialism and suppresses Force-related education, creating underground movements where secret practitioners maintain hidden traditions. Emperor Palpatine faces the inevitable end of his dreams of galactic dominance. His empire has shrunk to fewer than 200 star systems, surrounded by the thriving Democratic Alliance and countless independent worlds that want nothing to do with authoritarian rule. But Palpatine has one final card to play: a secret fleet built in the unknown regions. hidden from galactic intelligence networks for decades. This isn't the desperate last stand of a defeated tyrant. Palpatine has carefully prepared for this moment, building the most advanced military force in galactic history, while his enemies grew complacent in their Cold War stalemate. His secret ships are faster, more powerful, and more numerous than anything the Alliance or independent systems possess. For the first time since the Clone Wars ended, the galaxy faces the genuine threat of total Imperial conquest. But Palpatine has made one crucial miscalculation. The galaxy he's preparing to conquer is not the same one he lost 20 years ago. Luke and Leia Skywalker, now experienced leaders in their own right, coordinate a defense that would have been impossible in the original timeline. Thousands of trained Jedi work together using techniques developed over decades of cooperation. Liberated clone armies fight alongside their former enemies. Independent systems that spent years learning to resist outside control prove impossible to intimidate or conquer. The final battle isn't a single decisive confrontation. It's a galaxy-wide campaign that lasts years and involves every inhabited system. Palpatine's technological advantage proves insufficient against opponents who refuse to surrender and have learned to cooperate across political boundaries. The Empire's secret fleet is gradually worn down not by superior firepower, but by the sheer determination of populations that have experienced freedom and refuse to give it up. When Emperor Palpatine finally dies, not in a dramatic lightsaber duel, but from old age and exhaustion during a siege of his final stronghold, the galaxy doesn't celebrate with massive parties on Coruscant. Instead, it faces the complex task of rebuilding after decades of conflict, while ensuring that the conditions that allowed Palpatine's rise can never occur again. Luke and Leia spend the following years not as galactic heroes, but as patient builders of institutions designed to prevent future tyrannies. They help design educational systems that teach citizens to recognize and resist authoritarian manipulation. They establish economic networks that make war unprofitable. Most importantly, they create a new understanding of the Force that emphasizes service rather than power. The galaxy that emerges from this long struggle bears the scars of its conflicts, but also the wisdom gained from surviving them. Democracy isn't guaranteed. It requires constant vigilance and active participation from citizens who understand the cost of freedom. The Force remains a powerful tool, but one that demands responsibility and ethical use from those who wield it. Obi-Wan's single act of moral courage created a galaxy where good ultimately triumphed, but only through decades of patient work, countless individual choices to do the right thing, and the understanding that freedom must be earned by each generation rather than simply inherited from the past. If you've enjoyed this journey through an alternate Star Wars timeline, there are more untold stories waiting to be discovered. Join our growing community of Star Wars enthusiasts who believe in exploring these what-if moments that could have changed the galaxy far, far away. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and activate notifications to catch our next alternative Star Wars story. Each tale offers a new perspective on the characters we love and the choices that define them. Remember to share your thoughts in the comments below. What other pivotal moments in the Star Wars saga would you like to see explored differently? Your ideas might inspire our next adventure. May the Force be with you, always.